The brass key stopped halfway into Clara Bennett's lock because someone inside had just turned it from the other side. The door opened 3 inches, revealing a slice of warm lamplight, the sharp scent of bergamot tea, and one pale hand wrapped around the polished handle. Clara stared at it. "You've got to be kidding me." The door opened wider. Princess Emilia Valmont stood barefoot on Clara's rug, wearing black slacks, a cream sweater, and the same unreadable expression she had worn 6 hours earlier while dismantling Clara's argument in front of 300 students. Her dark hair was pinned loosely at the nape of her neck. A silver watch flashed under the desk lamp when she folded her arms. "Apparently," Emilia said, "the housing office has a sense of humor." Clara pushed her suitcase over the threshold. Its wheels rattled against the old hardwood, loud in the sudden silence. The room smelled different already. Clara's coffee and cedarwood candle had been invaded by Emilia's tea and something clean, almost floral. On the second bed sat 2 expensive-looking suitcases, perfectly aligned beneath the window. "This is my room. Half of it." Emilia stepped aside. "Effective today." Clara dropped her backpack onto her mattress. The spring squeaked. "You're Princess Emilia Valmont." Emilia's eyes sharpened. "Lower your voice. You're the woman who spent 20 minutes telling an auditorium that my policy proposal was naive." "It was naive. You called it economically sentimental. It was also that." Clara gave a short laugh and dragged her suitcase toward the closet. "Fantastic. My worst enemy comes with a title." Emilia's mouth tightened, but a faint color touched the tops of her cheeks before she turned toward the desk. Clara noticed it. She wished she hadn't. The woman had been impossible on stage, precise, composed, almost icy beneath the white lights of the debate hall. Here, with one sleeve pushed above her wrist and a tea mug warming her hands, she looked less like a royal portrait and more like someone Clara might accidentally understand. That was unacceptable. Emilia lifted a sheet of paper from the desk. "We need rules." Clara stopped unpacking. "Of course you brought rules. Quiet after 11. No guests without warning. Neither of us uses the other's things. And we divide the refrigerator." "Should I address the milk as Your Highness?" Emilia looked at her. For 1 second, the royal mask slipped. Her lips twitched. Clara caught it immediately. Was that almost a smile? No, it absolutely was. "You're imagining things." "Interesting." The Princess of Valmont melts under one mediocre joke. This time Emilia's cheeks colored unmistakably. She set the paper down too quickly, knocking the teaspoon against the mug with a bright metallic clink. "Don't call me that here." The humor vanished from Clara's face. Beyond the window, footsteps crossed the stone courtyard below, and somewhere down the hallway a door slammed. Emilia moved to Clara's side of the room and closed the curtains. Thick velvet brushed across her knuckles. Then she crossed to the door, checked the hallway, and turned the lock. Click. Clara straightened. "What are you doing?" Emilia faced her, standing only a few feet away now. The room felt smaller with the curtains drawn, warmer beneath the amber desk lamps. "At the academy, I'm Emilia Valmont, graduate student. You're also literally a princess. And nobody in this residence hall knows." Clara looked at the monogrammed leather luggage, then at Emilia's perfectly controlled expression. "That seems difficult to hide." "It wasn't difficult until they assigned me a roommate who enjoys publicly challenging me." "You challenged me first. And tomorrow I'll probably do it again." Clara hated that she almost smiled. Emilia noticed. Something shifted in her face, softer this time, gone almost before Clara could name it. Then the princess stepped closer and lowered her voice. "You can disagree with me. You can dislike me. You can make jokes about my refrigerator shelf if that brings meaning to your life." Clara raised an eyebrow. Emilia's fingers tightened around the edge of the rule sheet. "But you cannot tell anyone who I am." "Why should I protect your secret?" Emilia held her gaze. The radiator clicked behind them, sending a faint wave of dry heat through the room. For the first time since Clara had met her, Emilia didn't have an immediate answer. Then she said quietly, Because for the next 9 months, Clara, you're the only person close enough to destroy the one thing I came here to have. Clara waited. Emilia swallowed. A life where I'm not a princess every minute of the day. The silence stretched between them. Then Clara took the rule sheet, uncapped a pen, and wrote one final line at the bottom. Rule number 5, no royal attitude before coffee. Emilia read it. Her shoulders loosened. And, despite herself, the princess smiled. By Wednesday morning, Clara had discovered that living with a princess involved considerably more warfare than any international relations seminar had prepared her for. The first shot came at 6:42 a.m., when the hiss of Emilia's espresso machine cut through the room and the bitter scent of dark roast reached Clara before her alarm did. Clara opened one eye. Emilia stood beneath the yellow kitchenette light in pressed navy trousers, already dressed for class, occupying nearly every inch of the counter with a silver kettle, porcelain cup, and 3 neatly stacked books. Clara dragged herself out of bed, crossed the cold hardwood in socks, and reached for the coffee. Emilia moved the pot 6 inches away. Rule 5 says no royal attitude before coffee, Clara muttered.
Correct.
Emilia lifted her cup. It doesn't say I'm required to provide the coffee. Clara stared at her, then calmly took Emilia's favorite teaspoon and stirred her own instant coffee with it. The tiny silver spoon struck the ceramic mug twice. Emilia froze. That is mine. We're roommates. We share. Rule 3.
I'm renegotiating.
By breakfast, Emilia had labeled half the refrigerator with perfectly straight strips of cream masking tape. By lunch, Clara had moved every label exactly 1 shelf to the left. That evening, Emilia responded by shifting Clara's desk chair 3 feet from its usual position and placing the roommate rules directly in the center of the seat. Clara retaliated by pinning a handwritten amendment above the desk. Any person who alphabetizes T loses the right to criticize normal people. Emilia read it while removing her coat. Rainwater glistened on the wool shoulders, and the room carried the damp mineral smell of the stone courtyard outside. My tea is organized by oxidation level. That sentence proves my point. Emilia gave Clara the look she usually reserved for opponents during academic debates, chin lifted, shoulders squared. Then Clara added, besides, chamomile clearly outranks Earl Grey. Emilia's mouth twitched. She turned toward the closet too fast. Clara leaned against her desk. There it is again. There is what? The smile. I did not smile. You nearly did. You have an inflated sense of your comedic abilities. And you're blushing. Emilia immediately reached for a scarf hanging from the closet door and wrapped it around her neck despite the radiator ticking steadily beside them. Clara laughed so hard she had to grip the desk. Emilia pointed at her with one gloved finger. You are intolerable. And yet you're smiling now. Emilia pressed her lips together and marched toward the hallway. The door slammed. 10 minutes later, Clara found her occupying their usual study table in the residence library. Green-shaded lamps cast pools of warm light across the polished oak, while pages whispered and a clock clicked above the shelves. Emilia had spread her notes over both seats. Clara stopped opposite her. You stole my chair. There are 87 chairs in this library. That one has lumbar support. A tragic geopolitical crisis. Clara grabbed the chair anyway. Emilia grabbed the backrest. The wooden legs scraped sharply across the floor, drawing irritated glances from 2 students nearby. Neither woman let go. Release it, Emilia whispered. Say please. Clara. That isn't please. Emilia leaned closer across the chair, her voice dropping. Please. Clara released it instantly. Emilia stumbled half a step backward, caught herself against a table, and stared at Clara. Wow, Clara whispered. That worked embarrassingly well. Color rose beneath Emilia's cheekbones. She sat down and opened her book with unnecessary force. Clara pulled another chair beside her instead of across from her. Their elbows nearly touched. Emilia shifted away. Clara shifted closer. Emilia moved again. Clara followed. Are you 12? Emilia murmured. Are you retreating? I am creating reasonable personal space. From your worst enemy? Emilia finally turned, prepared with some polished royal response, but Clara was grinning at her from less than 2 feet away. The answer vanished. Emilia looked down at her notes. Her fingers smoothed the same corner of the page 3 times. Clara's grin faded into something quieter. She moved her chair back an inch. Emilia exhaled through her nose, almost inaudibly. Later that night, Clara returned from brushing her teeth and found a fresh sheet taped beside their original rules. The paper smelled faintly of Emilia's bergamot tea, and the ink was still glossy beneath the desk lamp. Rule 6. Clara Bennett is forbidden from deliberately attempting to make Emilia Valmont lose her composure. Clara read it twice, uncapped a red pen, and wrote beneath it, then stopped making it so easy. Emilia, watching from her bed, pulled the blanket over the lower half of her face, but not quickly enough to hide the smile. The phone began vibrating against Emilia's nightstand at 1:17 a.m., hard enough to rattle the porcelain teacup beside it. Clara opened her eyes to amber lamplight spilling across the hardwood and the dry hiss of the radiator. Emilia was sitting upright on her bed, staring at the glowing screen. She answered on the 4th vibration. Yes. Her voice was different, precise, polished, stripped of every trace of the woman who had hidden a smile beneath her blanket hours earlier. Clara turned toward the wall and pulled a comforter higher, giving her privacy, without pretending she couldn't hear Emilia's clipped replies. I understand. Silence. No, that isn't what I said. Another silence, longer this time. The radiator clicked. Emilia's bare foot pressed into the rug, toes curling against the thick wool. I said I understand. The call ended. Clara waited for the familiar rustle of blankets. Instead came the scrape of a chair. She looked over. Emilia stood at the desk with both hands planted against the wood, head lowered beneath the warm cone of the lamp. Her untouched tea had gone cold. If you're planning to reorganize the refrigerator at 1:30 in the morning, Clara said, I'm invoking emergency roommate powers. No answer. Clara sat up. Emilia. Go back to sleep. That sounded suspiciously like royal attitude before coffee. Usually that worked. Tonight Emilia didn't even turn. Clara crossed the cold floor and stopped beside her. Up close, she could see the faint crescent marks Emilia's nails had left in her palm. Clara reached past her, picked up the kettle, and filled it from the small sink. Water rushed against steel. What are you doing? Making tea. I don't want tea. Perfect. It's for me. Clara dropped one of Emilia's carefully organized bergamot sachets into the pot. Emilia finally looked at her. That's my tea. Rule 3. I know. Steam curled between them, carrying citrus and spice into the room. Clara poured 2 cups anyway and pushed one across the desk. Emilia stared at it. You are exceptionally bad at respecting boundaries. And you're exceptionally bad at pretending you're fine. Emilia's fingers stopped an inch from the cup. Clara immediately turned away and began gathering the books scattered across Emilia's side of the desk. Move. Excuse me? You've been sitting here working every night. We're changing the battlefield. Clara stacked 2 pillows against the wall beside her bed, grabbed the heavy gray throw from Emilia's chair, and tossed it onto the rug. Floor. I am not sitting on the floor. 30 seconds later, the Princess of Valmont was sitting on the floor. Clara leaned against the bed beside her, both of them wrapped in opposite ends of the same blanket, while the desk lamp painted a soft gold rectangle across the rug. Neither mentioned the phone call. Clara opened her laptop and played the worst American game show she could find. A contestant screamed over a blender. Emilia frowned at the screen. Why is everyone applauding? He correctly identified a pineapple. That cannot possibly be the entire challenge. Respect American culture. Emilia made a tiny sound into her tea. Clara turned. Was that a laugh? Absolutely not. Your Highness, I heard it. Emilia covered her mouth with the mug, but her shoulders shook once. Then again. Clara started laughing too, and soon Emilia was fighting unsuccessfully to remain silent, her forehead dropping against Clara's shoulder for one brief second. She seemed to realize where she was and lifted her head immediately. The laughter disappeared. Clara didn't move. Neither did Emilia. The television murmured across the room while bergamot steam warmed the space between them. You didn't ask, Emilia said quietly. About what? The call. Clara pulled the blanket higher over Emilia's shoulder. You told me you wanted one place where you didn't have to be a princess every minute. Emilia looked down at Clara's hand holding the blanket. So, tonight you're just my annoying roommate. Your worst enemy, apparently. That too. Emilia's mouth softened. This time she didn't hide it. Hours later, Clara woke with the laptop dark beside her and morning light leaking silver around the curtains. Emilia was asleep against her shoulder, one hand loosely holding the edge of Clara's sleeve. Clara stayed perfectly still until Emilia stirred. The princess opened her eyes, saw where she was, and froze. Clara expected her to retreat. Instead, Emilia tightened her fingers around the sleeve and whispered, 5 more minutes. Clara looked at the woman who could silence an auditorium with one raised eyebrow, then reached for the blanket and covered them both.
5, she said.
Emilia closed her eyes again. And Clara made a decision she never expected to make about her worst enemy. Whatever happened outside that locked room, she would never use this softer version of Emilia against her. The applause hit Clara like a wall the moment Emilia stepped away from the podium and left her argument in pieces. White stage lights burned across the Academy auditorium. The microphones carried every shuffle of paper, and 300 students watched Clara stand behind the opposite lectern with one hand pressed flat against cool brass. Emilia looked immaculate in charcoal gray. Every inch the composed graduate student nobody here knew was royalty. Ms. Bennett's proposal assumes cooperation where the incentives favor competition, Emilia said. That makes it admirable in principle and vulnerable in practice. Clara leaned toward her microphone. And Ms. Valmont's alternative assumes people behave like numbers on a spreadsheet. A few students laughed. Emilia's eyes narrowed. Numbers are less likely to disappoint you. You should put that on our refrigerator. The laughter doubled. Emilia's composure cracked for half a second. Color touched her cheeks beneath the merciless stage lights. Clara saw it. Emilia knew she saw it. Then the moderator called time, and Emilia won by 12 votes. 20 minutes later, Clara shoved open their residence room door hard enough to make the brass handle strike the stopper. The room smelled of bergamot and old wood. Late afternoon sunlight cut through the curtains in narrow gold bands. Emilia entered behind her and quietly closed the door.
Don't.
Clara dropped her folder onto the desk. Paper slid across the polished surface. I haven't said anything. Your face has. Emilia removed her coat with maddening precision. This was an academic debate. You didn't debate me. You dissected me. Your argument had weaknesses. You knew exactly where they were, because you watched me prepare it 3 feet from your bed. Emilia stopped. The radiator gave a metallic pop between them. Are you accusing me of using our room against you? I'm telling you that outside this room, you treat me like I'm somebody you need to defeat. Because outside this room, you are my opponent. Clara stepped closer. And inside, Emilia's hand remained suspended over the back of her chair. The answer didn't come. Clara laughed once, without humor. Right. She reached for her jacket. Emilia caught the sleeve. Clara. Clara looked down at Emilia's fingers. Emilia released her immediately. I'm sorry. Clara stared at her. What? I pushed harder than necessary. Princess Emilia Valmont just apologized. Quiet. Should I document this? You make sincerity extremely difficult. Clara's mouth almost curved. Emilia noticed, and some of the stiffness left her shoulders. There, Emilia said softly. What? You almost smiled. Clara blinked. Did you just use my own trick against me? Emilia's expression brightened with unmistakable satisfaction. Apparently I learned quickly. Clara moved toward her. Dangerous. For whom? You. She stopped less than 2 feet away. The desk lamp threw warm light along Emilia's face, catching tiny gold flecks in her dark eyes. Outside, footsteps passed in the corridor, then faded. Inside, neither woman moved. Emilia lifted her chin as though they were still standing behind opposing lecterns. You lost today. By 12 votes. A loss remains a loss. You're enjoying this. Immensely. Clara stepped half a pace closer. Emilia's confident smile disappeared. Her fingers tightened around the chair. Clara tilted her head. There she is. Who? The woman who can humiliate me in front of 300 people, but forgets how sentences work when I stand this close. Emilia opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Clara smiled slowly. Color climbed Emilia's cheeks. You're doing it deliberately, Emilia whispered. Rule 6 forbids that. Rule 6 isn't enforceable. I wrote it. You're not actually in charge here. That landed differently. Emilia's eyes lifted to hers, sharp at first, then uncertain. Clara reached past her, took the roommate rules from the desk, and held them between them. Outside this door. You can beat me in every debate you want. She tore Rule 6 neatly from the bottom and placed the strip of paper into Emilia's palm. But in here, you don't get to hide behind being untouchable. Emilia looked at the torn rule, then slowly folded it once. And what exactly do you think I'm hiding? Clara's answer came quietly. That you like me getting under your skin. Emilia's breath caught. The room went still except for the radiator ticking behind them. Then Emilia did something Clara hadn't expected. She stepped forward instead of back. Fine, she said, holding Clara's gaze despite the color burning across her face. Tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. You and me, right here.
No audience, no pódium, no títulos.
Clara raised an eyebrow. Another debate? Emilia's smile returned, small and dangerous.
No.
You keep claiming you know how easily I lose my composure around you. She placed the torn rule against Clara's chest. Prove it. At 7:53 the next evening, Clara walked into their room laughing at a message, and Emilia's pen snapped against the page. The desk lamp cast honey-colored light across Emilia's notes, while the radiator filled the room with dry heat and the faint bergamot scent of her tea. Clara shut the door with her shoulder, still smiling at her phone. Emilia looked at the broken pen between her fingers. 7 minutes early. Clara glanced at the clock. Were you counting? Obviously not. You just told me exactly how early I am. Emilia placed the pen down. Carefully. I value punctuality. Clara removed her coat. That explains the pen. Emilia ignored that. Who were you talking to? Interesting opening move. It wasn't a move. Clara's phone chimed again. Emilia's gaze dropped to the screen before snapping back to her book. Clara noticed. Of course she noticed. Her name's Sophie. Emilia turned a page. She clearly hadn't finished reading. I didn't ask her name. She's in my economics seminar. Fascinating. She asked me to get coffee tomorrow. Another page turned. Then you should go. Clara crossed to the kitchenette, where the refrigerator hummed beneath Emilia's absurdly straight labels. I think I will. Silence. Clara opened the refrigerator. Behind her came the sharp click of Emilia closing her book. You said 8 o'clock. Clara checked the clock again. Still 6 minutes away. So, you intend to spend those 6 minutes discussing Sophie? Clara pulled out sparkling water. The aluminum can hissed beneath her thumb. You're jealous. Emilia stood. Of a woman I've never met? That wasn't a no. Clara. And there's the voice. Emilia walked across the rug until only the small dining table separated them. Her face had the same disciplined calm she wore at the podium, but one finger tapped twice against the tabletop. You promised to prove something tonight. You're doing most of the work for me. I am perfectly composed. Clara's phone chimed a third time. Emilia looked at it again. Clara smiled. Completely. Emilia reached across the table, took the phone from Clara's hand, and placed it face down on the desk. Clara stared at her. Did a princess just confiscate my phone? Your attention was elsewhere. You wanted my attention? Emilia froze. The refrigerator motor clicked off, leaving only distant piano music drifting through the residence wall. Clara moved around the table. Careful, Emilia.
About what?
You're making this very easy. Emilia held her ground. You confuse irritation with jealousy. Then tell me to go have coffee with Sophie. Go have coffee with Sophie. And tell me you don't care. Emilia opened her mouth. Nothing followed. Clara waited. The color appeared slowly this time, beginning beneath Emilia's cheekbones and spreading upward. That's what I thought. You are insufferable. You challenged me. Clara reached for her phone, but Emilia caught it first and held it behind her back. For once, Clara was the one caught off guard. Emilia smiled. Maybe I'm learning your methods. Clara stepped closer. Give it back. Ask nicely. Please, Your Highness. Emilia's smile vanished at the softness in Clara's voice. Her grip loosened. Clara didn't take the phone. Instead, she looked directly at Emilia and said, just as quietly, "You don't have to compete for my attention." Emilia's practiced defenses seemed to disappear all at once. Her shoulders dropped. The hand holding Clara's phone lowered to her side. "Don't do that," she whispered. "Do what?" "Say things like that as if they're simple." Clara's teasing faded. Maybe they are. Emilia looked away toward the amber light on the curtains. Not for me. Clara took the phone from her hand and set it on the desk without checking the messages. Okay. Emilia looked back. Okay. I won't go tomorrow. I didn't ask you to cancel.
No.
You just stole my phone, interrogated me about Sophie, and broke a pen. Emilia covered her face with one hand. Clara laughed. This is humiliating. A little. You're enjoying it. Immensely. Emilia lowered her hand, fighting a smile. Clara pointed toward her. There. Again. Stop. You really do melt. Emilia shook her head, but the smile won anyway. Then she crossed the room, took the roommate rules from the wall, and tore down Rule 6 herself. The paper made a crisp ripping sound. She folded it once and placed it in Clara's hand. Fine, Emilia said. You win tonight. Clara looked at the paper. That sounds dangerously like surrender. Emilia met her eyes, cheeks still warm with color. Don't get comfortable, Bennett. Tomorrow, I'm taking my worst enemy to coffee myself. The coffee shop was only 3 blocks from the academy, but Emilia stopped twice before they reached it. The first time, she removed the silver pin from her coat collar and slipped it into her pocket. The second, beneath the warm glow of a bakery window, she loosened her carefully arranged hair and let it fall around her shoulders. Clara watched from beside her, breathing in roasted coffee and fresh bread while bicycle tires hissed across the damp street. What? Emilia asked. Nothing. You're staring. I've never watched someone become less royal in stages. Emilia rolled her eyes, but her mouth curved. Keep walking, Bennett. Inside, cups clattered against saucers, and an espresso machine released a sharp burst of steam. Emilia chose the smallest table in the back, away from the windows. Clara returned with 2 coffees and placed Emilia's down without asking what she wanted. Emilia examined it. Oat milk. 1 sugar. You're annoyingly predictable. You remembered. Clara pulled out her chair. Don't melt on me before the coffee gets cold. Emilia looked down immediately, hiding a smile behind the cup. Clara had expected another round of their private war. Instead, Emilia turned the cardboard sleeve slowly between her fingers. I owe you an explanation. Clara's chair stopped scraping against the tile. That sounds ominous. I didn't come to the academy because I needed another degree. Clara waited. Emilia's thumb flattened a crease in the cardboard. At home, every year of my life already has a purpose. Which foundation I represent. Which ceremonies I attend.
Which people I stand beside.
Which version of myself photographs correctly. The cafe door opened, sending a blade of cold air across their table. Emilia pulled her sleeves over her hands. Coming here was the first decision that was mine. Clara leaned forward. Then keep it. Emilia gave a small, humorless laugh. Princesses don't simply keep things because they want them. You kept half my refrigerator. 48%. Tyrant. That finally earned a real smile, but it disappeared quickly. Emilia lowered her voice. If my life here becomes a public spectacle, I'll be recalled to Valin.
No debate. No rummat.
No ordinary mornings. Clara's fingers stopped around her cup. The word roommate landed harder than it should have. So, that's why you keep backing away. Emilia looked directly at her. From more than one thing. They walked back after dark. Their footsteps echoed beneath the academy's stone archway, and cold air carried the scent of wet leaves from the courtyard. Clara said nothing until their door closed behind them. Then she turned the lock.
Click.
Emilia remained beside the desk, coat still buttoned. You said you wanted one place where you weren't a princess. Clara crossed the room and pulled the roommate rules from the wall. Then we need a better rule. She uncapped the red pen. Rule 6 is dead. You murdered it. It deserved it. Clara wrote beneath the remaining rules. In this room, Emilia chooses who she gets to be. Emilia read the sentence without moving. The desk lamp warmed one side of her face. Outside the curtains, the courtyard bell struck 9. Clara.
Nota ítems.
Remember? Emilia reached for the pen. Her fingers touched Clara's, and neither immediately released it. Then you need a rule, too. Go ahead. Emilia wrote beneath Clara's line. Clara does not get to decide what Emilia wants. Clara read it, then looked up. They were standing close enough that Emilia's bergamot perfume mixed with the faint coffee still clinging to Clara's coat. Fair. Emilia didn't step away. You've spent weeks telling me I lose my composure around you. Because you do. You tease me until I can barely answer. Also true. And you think that means you understand what's happening. Clara's smile faded. Emilia's hand remained around the pen between them. Then tell me. Emilia's eyes dropped briefly, then returned to Clara's. The radiator clicked once in the silence. She moved closer. Clara stayed still. For a suspended second, it seemed Emilia might close the remaining distance. Instead, she stopped, her forehead almost touching Clara's, and whispered, "This is exactly why I keep backing away." Clara's voice came softer. Because you don't want this? Emilia shut her eyes. Her fingers tightened around the pen. When she opened them again, every trace of royal composure was gone. Because you are the one person I cannot afford to want. Clara knew something had changed before she reached their room, because the residence hallway had gone unnaturally quiet. 2 students stood beside the stairwell staring at their phones, blue screen light washing across their faces, while Clara's shoes clicked against the cold stone floor. One student glanced at her, then quickly looked away. Clara pushed open the door. Emilia stood beside the window in a black coat, perfectly buttoned, her hair pinned back with the silver clasp she normally removed outside official events. The bergamot tea on the desk had gone untouched. Between them, Clara's laptop displayed a photograph from the academy debate. Emilia at the podium, Clara opposite her. Beneath it was a headline identifying Princess Emilia Valmont as a secret student at the academy. Emilia, did you tell anyone? Her voice had none of its usual warmth. Clara shut the door. No, nobody here knew except you. Then somebody found out another way. Emilia picked up a printed page from the desk. Paper crackled between her fingers. The article mentions that I wanted a life where I wasn't a princess every minute. Clara stopped. Those were Emilia's words from their first night. I never repeated that. It also says I was living anonymously in student housing. Emilia, look at me.
Emilia did.
The polished royal expression was back, the one Clara had learned to recognize as armor. I trusted you. 3 words, delivered more quietly than an accusation. Clara crossed the rug. And you still can. Emilia stepped backward. That movement hurt more than the words. Clara stopped immediately. Give me 10 minutes. For what? To prove I didn't do this. Clara grabbed her phone and opened the Academy article. She moved quickly, checking the publication time, then the residence forum where the link had first appeared. The fluorescent light above the kitchenette buzzed faintly as she scrolled. Emilia remained near the window, motionless except for one thumb rubbing against the edge of her silver watch. The article went live at 6:12, Clara said. We were both in Professor Adler's seminar until 6:30. You could have sent information earlier. True. Clara opened the original post. But this photo wasn't taken from anything I have. She enlarged it. The image showed Emilia entering their residence 3 nights earlier, the building number visible behind her. Whoever exposed you was watching the entrance, not listening inside our room. Emilia's eyes flicked toward the screen. Clara kept moving. And this quote. She reread the article. It isn't exact. You said you wanted a life where you weren't a princess every minute of the day. They wrote that you wanted to escape royal life. Someone guessed the rest after identifying you. Emilia's jaw shifted, but before she could answer, 3 hard knocks struck the door. Both women turned. Princess Emilia? A man called from the hallway. Your transportation is ready. Emilia closed her eyes briefly. Clara looked toward the 2 suitcases on Emilia's bed. They were already packed. You were leaving before I got here. The palace contacted me 20 minutes ago. And you weren't going to wait? Emilia lifted her chin. I thought you had betrayed me. You thought wrong. Clara's voice sharpened. And you know it now. Another knock. Your Highness, we need to leave. Emilia reached for the handle of her suitcase. Clara stepped between her and the door. No, Emilia stared at her. Move. Not until you say it. Say what? That you believe me. The old rivals stood facing each other again, but there was no podium now, no audience, nowhere for Emilia to hide behind a winning argument. Her fingers loosened around the suitcase handle. I believe you. Clara stepped aside. Emilia opened the door. Cold corridor air swept into the room, carrying the faint scent of floor polish. 2 formally dressed security officers waited outside. Emilia pulled her suitcase across the threshold, its wheels bumping over the wooden frame. Clara watched the distance open between them. Then Emilia stopped. She turned back, reached into her coat, and placed something in Clara's palm. The torn piece of Rule 6. Clara looked up. Emilia's composure cracked for 1 heartbeat. I was wrong about you, she whispered. But they're taking me back to Valmont tomorrow morning. Clara closed her fingers around the paper. Then I have until tomorrow morning. Emilia's eyes widened. To do what? Clara stepped into the hallway and pulled the door shut behind her. Make sure my worst enemy doesn't disappear without a fight. By 8:05 the next morning, Emilia stood beneath the academy's vaulted glass ceiling while 2 royal security officers waited beside the black car outside. Pale sunlight flashed across the marble floor, cameras clicked beyond the entrance, and every few seconds Emilia's fingers tightened around the handle of her suitcase. Clara pushed through the crowd with her laptop under one arm. Emilia. One officer stepped forward. Emilia raised a hand.
He stopped.
You have terrible timing, she said. You're still here, so my timing is excellent. Clara opened the laptop on a stone bench. The screen showed the Academy's statement confirming that the photograph had come from a freelance photographer covering campus events, not from anyone inside Emilia's residence. I told you, I believed you. This isn't about proving myself anymore. Clara closed the laptop. It's about you. A camera shutter snapped outside. Emilia glanced toward the doors. The palace expects me at the Valmont Cultural Address in 40 minutes. After that, I leave. Because they ordered you to? Because this has become public. That wasn't my question. Emilia's jaw tightened. Clara stepped closer, lowering her voice beneath the echo of footsteps and distant reporters. You came here because you wanted one decision that belonged to you. Now someone photographs you, and suddenly everyone gets to decide your life again. You don't understand what my position requires. Then stop explaining your position and tell me what Emilia wants. The words landed. Emilia looked at her, and for once there was no clever answer, no royal composure, no roommate rule to hide behind. One officer checked his watch. Your Highness, 5 minutes. Emilia picked up her suitcase. Clara's hand moved instinctively toward it, then stopped. I'm not asking you to stay for me. Emilia froze. What? I'm not going to become another person telling you what your life should look like. Clara swallowed, then forced herself to continue. If you choose Valmont, choose it. If you choose the Academy, choose that. If you decide you never want to share another refrigerator with me, I'll survive somehow. Emilia's mouth almost moved. But choose it yourself. 35 minutes later, Clara stood at the back of the Academy's ceremonial hall as Emilia approached a blue and silver podium beneath the royal crest. Warm television lights flooded the stage. The air smelled of polished wood and fresh flowers. Emilia's prepared statement waited on cream paper before her. Clara could see the first line from where she stood. Following recent events, I have agreed to suspend my studies. Emilia stared at it. Then she looked across the hall and found Clara. Clara did nothing.
No nod. No smile.
The choice had to belong to Emilia. The hall went silent. Emilia lifted the prepared statement, folded it once, and set it aside. I was expected to announce this morning that I am withdrawing from the academy. A murmur moved through the room. I will not be doing that. One of the royal aides near the stage stiffened. Emilia continued. Serving Valmont matters to me. So does finishing what I chose to begin here. Those commitments do not become incompatible simply because my private life became inconveniently visible. Clara's breath caught. Emilia stepped away from the podium before anyone could redirect her. Questions erupted behind her, voices overlapping beneath the hot lights, but she walked straight through them toward Clara. You realize, Clara said when Emilia reached her, you just created a spectacular amount of paperwork. I learned rebellion from my roommate. Your worst enemy. Unfortunately, Emilia's hands were trembling. Clara noticed and held one out. Emilia looked at it. The princess, who could face a room full of cameras without blinking, suddenly lost every polished line she possessed. Still easy, Clara murmured. Emilia's cheeks warmed. Don't ruin this. Wouldn't dream of it. Emilia placed her hand in Clara's. Her fingers closed tightly, and her shoulders finally dropped. Around them, cameras continued clicking and officials called Emilia's name, but she kept looking only at Clara. Then Emilia smiled, the unguarded smile Clara had once needed an entire evening to coax from her. I'm staying, she said. Clara squeezed her hand. Emilia stepped closer. And Bennett. Yeah. When we get back to our room, we're rewriting the rules. 3 months later, Clara found a handwritten notice taped across the refrigerator. Princess Emilia's shelf. Touch at your own risk. Morning sunlight spilled through the curtains, the espresso machine hissed on the counter, and the room smelled of dark coffee and the cinnamon bagels Clara had brought back from the campus cafe. She peeled off the notice. Absolutely not. Emilia looked up from the desk, where she was reviewing notes in gray sweatpants and an academy sweatshirt. That is an official boundary. It's masking tape. Clara crumpled it. Treason. Add it to my record. Emilia rose, crossed the warm hardwood, and rescued her yogurt before Clara could move it onto the wrong shelf. Outside their room, almost everyone at the academy now knew who Emilia was. Occasionally, a security officer waited near the residence entrance. Official letters arrived in envelopes bearing the Valmont crest. Emilia still attended royal events when required, still stood beneath television lights with impossible posture, and still destroyed Clara in academic debates whenever she could. But inside room 314, the crown stopped at the door. Their roommate rules remained on the wall, altered so many times that red ink covered half the page. Rule 3, never use each other's things, had been crossed out after Emilia began stealing Clara's sweaters. Rule 5, no royal attitude before coffee, remained untouched. Clara pointed toward the clock. Seminar in 20 minutes.
I'm aware.
You're going to be late. I have never been late. First time for everything, princess. Emilia narrowed her eyes. Don't call me that when you're trying to annoy me. Princess. Emilia threw a dish towel at her. Clara caught it, laughing. An hour later, they were opponents again. White lights washed over the academy lecture hall while Emilia stood beside a projection screen challenging Clara's economic model with ruthless precision. Clara answered every objection. Emilia countered every answer. When Clara finally exposed a flaw in Emilia's assumptions, the professor nodded and the room broke into applause. Emilia stared across the table. Clara smiled sweetly. Numbers disappoint you sometimes. Emilia pressed her lips together. Color appeared beneath her cheekbones. Clara's smile widened. Several students exchanged amused looks. Their rivalry was no longer a secret either. That evening they returned to room 314 still arguing. The door clicked shut behind them, muting the hallway noise. Rain tapped softly against the window, and bergamot steam curled from Emilia's cup beneath the amber desk lamp. Your model remains unrealistic, Emilia said. You lost. That does not make you correct. It makes me correct with witnesses. Emilia reached for the roommate rules. I'm adding a prohibition against excessive gloating. Clara caught her wrist, not hard, just enough to stop the pen. Emilia looked at Clara's hand, then at her face. The argument disappeared. It still amazed Clara how quickly it happened. This woman could face reporters, palace officials, professors, and entire auditoriums without losing a syllable. Clara only had to soften her voice. Emilia. The princess's cheeks warmed. Don't. I haven't done anything. You're about to. Clara released her wrist and held out her hand instead. Come here. Emilia stared at it. That is not an argument. Nope. You cannot win every disagreement by saying 2 words. Apparently I can. Emilia tried to maintain the glare for another second. Then her shoulders lowered, her mouth betrayed her with that familiar helpless smile, and she placed her hand in Clara's. Clara pulled her gently closer until their foreheads rested together. For once, neither competed. I used to hate you, Clara murmured. You were extremely irritating. Were? Emilia laughed softly.
Fine.
Are. Clara lifted her head. And now? Emilia's fingers tightened around hers. Now you're the first person who argues with me without wanting anything from the princess afterward. Clara's teasing vanished. Emilia continued quieter. You wanted me when I was impossible. You stayed when I was wrong. And when everyone else tried to choose for me, you made me choose for myself. Clara glanced toward the battered rules on the wall. We never actually defined what we are. Emilia took the red pen, crossed out the word roommate at the top, and wrote beneath it, partner. She handed Clara the pen. Clara added, still worst enemy, during debates. Emilia laughed, then signed her name below it. Clara signed beside hers. Outside their door, Emilia Valmont was still a princess. Across every podium, she was still Clara Bennett's fiercest enemy, but inside the little room they chose to keep sharing, the woman nobody could command still melted whenever Clara simply said, "Come here."